Was I wrong for what I did? Honestly, I've replayed that night 1,000 times in my head, weighing every single decision, every word, every consequence. My parents called me at 2 a.m., frantic, demanding money for my brother's hospital bills, threatening to leave him to suffer. And I, their own son, told them to call their precious daughter, hung up, and went back to sleep. The call from the police the next morning, well, that just solidified everything. Tell me, would you have done the same thing? Let me take you back, way back, to where this whole twisted tale truly begins. I grew up in a household that, to an outsider, might have looked perfectly normal. 2 parents, 2 sons, and then, about 5 years after I was born, my sister, Sarah, came along. And that's when the cracks started to show, not just in our family dynamic, but in my parents' affections. From the moment Sarah was able to babble her first words, she became the sun, moon, and stars in their eyes. My older brother, Mark, and we became background characters, props in the grand play of Sarah's life. It wasn't subtle favoritism. It was a blatant, in-your-face adoration that bordered on obsession. Sarah could do no wrong. She could throw a tantrum in a public place and my parents would coo, "Oh, look at our strong-willed little princess." Mark and I, on the other hand, would get grounded for a D in math, even if we tried our hardest. Christmas mornings were a stark reminder. Sarah's pile of presents would rival a small toy store's inventory, while Mark and I got a couple of carefully chosen, practical gifts. We'd try to act excited, but the sting of knowing we were second, best always, was a constant dull ache. As we got older, the favoritism only intensified, morphing from childish preference into something more insidious. Sarah was showered with every advantage, the best private schools, dance lessons, horseback riding, anything she expressed even a fleeting interest in. My parents funded without question. Mark and I, meanwhile, were told to work hard if we wanted anything. Our college education, you boys need to apply for scholarships and work part-time. We can't afford to pay for everyone. Sarah's tuition, however, was covered in full, no questions asked, at a prestigious out-of-state university. My parents even bought her a brand new car for her 18th birthday, claiming it was for her safety on campus. Mark and I had to buy our own beat-up used cars, working long hours to pay for them, insurance, and gas. This pattern extended into adulthood. Sarah never had to worry about rent, car payments, or even groceries. My parents funded her lifestyle completely, believing she was destined for greatness, even though she flitted from one hobby to another, never holding down a steady job for long. She wanted to be an artist, then a fashion designer, then a blogger. Each new venture was met with enthusiastic financial backing from our parents. Mark and I, meanwhile, were expected to be completely self-sufficient. I remember once asking my dad for a small loan to help with a down payment on my first apartment, and he lectured me for an hour about financial responsibility, ending with, "You need to learn to stand on your own 2 feet, son." The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife, considering they were still paying Sarah's rent and giving her a monthly allowance well into her late 20s. Mark, bless his heart, tried for years to gain our parents' approval. He worked incredibly hard, became an engineer, and built a successful career. He bought them expensive gifts for birthdays and holidays, always made sure to call them, visited frequently. He was the quintessential good son, hoping that if he just did everything right, they would finally see him, truly see him. But it was never enough. Sarah's latest art project or a photo of her enjoying a lavish vacation, paid for by mom and dad, would always take precedence. I, on the other hand, had given up trying years ago. I maintained a cordial but distant relationship, calling on holidays but rarely seeking their approval or help. I built my own life, my own success, entirely independent of them. and found a quiet kind of peace in that. The true breaking point for me came about 3 years ago. My grandfather, my mom's father, passed away. He was a wonderful man and the only grandparent who ever treated all 3 of us equally. In his will, he left a modest inheritance. To Mark and me, he left a sum that was enough to pay off some debt or put a down payment on something substantial. To Sarah, he left a larger sum, along with specific instructions that it was to be used for her education or to invest in a business. My parents, of course, were the executors of the will. A few months after the funeral, my parents called Mark and me separately to inform us that there had been a misunderstanding in the will. Apparently, Grandpa had intended for Sarah to receive a much larger share, and for Mark and me to receive a smaller, symbolic amount. They strongly suggested, practically demanded, that we do the right thing and sign over a significant portion of our inheritance to Sarah. They framed it as helping her achieve her dreams, while our portions were just extra money we didn't really need. Mark, ever the peacemaker, was deeply conflicted, but I outright refused. I told them Grandpa's wishes were clear, and I wasn't going to rewrite his will for their favored child. The ensuing argument was bitter, full of accusations from them about my selfishness and lack of family loyalty. I told them that their favoritism had poisoned our family for years, and that I was done being treated like an ATM for their golden child. I hung up on them, and that was the last time I spoke to them in over 3 years. Mark, to his credit, also refused, though it caused a significant rift between him and our parents. They started treating him even worse than before, frequently reminding him of his betrayal. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have caved to your parents' demands over the inheritance? Would you have cut them off entirely? Fast forward to that fateful night. I was sound asleep when my phone started vibrating insistently on my nightstand. The caller ID flashed Mom. I instinctively knew it wasn't good. They hadn't called me in years unless it was an emergency, and usually those emergencies involved Sarah needing something. I answered, my voice groggy with sleep. Hello. My mom's voice was a panicked shriek, barely coherent. Oh my God, honey, it's Mark. He's in the hospital. It's bad, really bad. My heart instantly leaped into my throat. Despite our parents' awful treatment of us, Mark and I had always been close. We were bonded by the shared experience of being the unfavored children. What happened? Which hospital? Is he okay? I demanded, already sitting upright, adrenaline coursing through me. Then my dad's voice, equally frantic, broke in. He got into a bad accident. A drunk driver hit him. He's got internal injuries, needs surgery. They need $15,000 up front for the procedure. Otherwise, they're saying he'll have to wait, or they can't do it tonight. You have to send it right now. My mind raced. $15,000. It wasn't an impossible sum for me, but it was significant. In the timing, the demand, something felt off. Wait, I said, trying to process everything through the fog of sleep and sudden terror. Why $15,000 up front? Don't they have insurance? He has excellent insurance through his job. They're saying there's a problem with his insurance. My mom wailed, her voice cracking. Some kind of deductible or a lapse, I don't know. They just said we need the money or he'll suffer through the night and we'll stick him with all the bills. He's in so much pain, honey. You have to help your brother. My blood ran cold. You're going to let your son suffer because of $15,000. I asked, my voice dangerously calm now. The sheer hypocrisy, the audacity, after all they had spent on Sarah. We don't have that kind of money just sitting around. My dad yelled, his voice laced with desperation, but also a strange undercurrent of accusation, as if it were my fault they didn't have it. We've been helping Sarah with her new boutique, and her rent just went up. Our savings are tied up. The words hit me like a physical blow. Their precious daughter, their golden child, had drained their resources, leaving their other son to potentially suffer or even die in a hospital bed. And they had the gall to call me in the middle of the night, demanding my money after years of neglect and emotional abuse. A fierce, cold anger, unlike anything I'd ever felt before, settled over me. All the years of being second best, all the unfairness, all the times they chose Sarah over Mark and me. It all crystallized in that moment. They saw me as nothing more than a fallback, an emergency ATM for when their real favorite couldn't come through, or when their financial decisions for Sarah had left them vulnerable. "Call your precious daughter," I said, my voice flat and devoid of emotion. "She's the one you've poured all your money into. She's the one who's always needed your help. She's the one who gets everything she wants. Let her pay for her brother's hospital bills." There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. I could hear them breathing, probably trying to process what I had just said. "What did you say?" My mom finally choked out, her voice laced with disbelief and outrage. "You heard me." I replied, feeling a strange sense of vindication, a lifetime of suppressed hurt finally boiling over. "You enabled her, you spoiled her, you made her your priority. Now it's her turn to step up, or better yet, dip into your own savings, the ones you keep filling for her next venture. Mark is your son too, but apparently only one of your children truly matters. You selfish monster," my dad roared. "How can you say that? Your own brother is lying in a hospital bed, possibly dying, and you're talking about money. This is your brother. Don't you care about him?" "Of course I care about him," I said, my voice still eerily calm, though my hands were shaking. "More than you two ever have, but you made your choices. You chose Sarah time and time again. You chose her boutique over an emergency fund. You chose her lavish lifestyle over ensuring your other sons were treated fairly. This is the consequence of your choices, and frankly, I'm tired of being the emergency cleanup crew for your favoritism. If you don't send that money, we'll tell Mark everything," my mom threatened, desperation making her cruel. "We'll tell him you let him suffer. He'll never forgive you. Go right ahead," I said, a bitter laugh escaping me. "I'll tell him about the inheritance you tried to steal from him. I'll tell him about every birthday you forgot, every time you chose Sarah over him. He knows your true colors already, and he knows mine too." Then, without another word, I hung up. I threw my phone onto the bed, lay back down, and surprisingly, drifted back to sleep. The adrenaline had worn off, replaced by a deep, weary exhaustion, but also a strange sense of peace. It was over, the charade, the constant striving for approval that would never come, the role of the forgotten son. I had finally broken free. The next morning, I woke up with a start. My phone was buzzing again. This time, the caller ID was unfamiliar. I answered cautiously, "Hello, is this my full name?" A stern, official voice asked. "Yes, it is." "This is Officer Thompson from the local police department. We have your parents, Mom's full name and Dad's full name, down at the station. They've been arrested for filing a false police report and attempted extortion." My blood ran cold, but not with fear, more with a chilling confirmation of what I had suspected. A false police report about what? They reported that their son, Mark, was involved in a severe car accident and that the hospital was demanding $15,000 for emergency surgery, threatening to let him suffer if they didn't get it. They claimed they called you and you refused to help. They also claimed you threatened them. When we contacted the hospitals in the area, there was no record of a Mark, our last name, being admitted last night for a car accident. We then paid them a visit. After some questioning, they admitted to making the whole thing up. They said they needed money for their daughter, Sarah, who apparently has some serious gambling debts, and they thought calling you with an emergency about your brother was the only way to get you to open your wallet. They're also claiming you threatened to reveal some information about inheritance fraud, which we'll be looking into. I just sat there, listening, a profound sense of disbelief and betrayal washing over me, quickly followed by a grim, dark satisfaction. It was all a lie. Mark wasn't in the hospital. He wasn't hurt. It was all a twisted scheme to extract money from me, fueled by their endless enabling of Sarah and their own desperation. The thought that they would use my brother's supposed pain and my love for him as a weapon to manipulate me made my stomach churn. And Sarah with gambling debts, that was a new low, even for her. I explained my side of the story to Officer Thompson, detailing years of blatant favoritism, the inheritance situation, and their history of emotionally manipulating Mark and me for Sarah's benefit. I told him about the 2 a.m. call and my refusal. He listened patiently, taking notes. After that, things moved quickly. My parents were charged. The inheritance fraud claims led to a separate investigation. Mark was understandably furious when he found out. He couldn't believe our parents would stoop so low. He'd actually been out of town on a business trip, completely oblivious to the whole charade. He felt immense guilt that they had used him in such a cruel way. We talked for hours that day, solidifying our bond even further. He finally saw them for what they truly were, without any lingering hope for their approval. He severed ties completely, choosing to pursue his own path, free from their emotional blackmail. Sarah, it turned out, was indeed deep in debt, and her boutique was just a front for her gambling habit. My parents had been siphoning money to cover her losses for months. My parents tried to reach out from jail, sending me letters, then calls, begging for bail money, apologizing, promising to change. But their apologies felt hollow, another desperate attempt at manipulation. I never responded. I visited Mark, helped him understand that it wasn't his fault, that he was loved, regardless of our parents' twisted affections. The aftermath was messy, as you can imagine. My parents faced legal consequences for their actions. The inheritance issue came to light, and they were forced to pay back a significant amount of money they had diverted to Sarah. Sarah, exposed and abandoned by her enabling parents, faced her own reckoning with her debts. It was a complete implosion of the family dynamic, but from the ashes, something healthier began to emerge for Mark and me. We finally had peace, so here I am now years later. Was I wrong? I don't think so. I protected myself, and in doing so, I exposed the truth that eventually freed my brother. It was a painful, brutal awakening, but necessary. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself, and even for others, is to draw a line in the sand and refuse to be walked all over. I'm living a life free from their drama, free from their expectations, and I wouldn't trade that freedom for anything. Like this video if you were on my side in this whole mess. Subscribe for more stories like this, and share your final thoughts on what I did in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.